Hi, I'm Mona, and today I want to talk about a problem that feels very confusing for many English learners. You are listening to a native English speaker. They are talking quickly, but you are not completely lost. You understand the topic. You understand the main idea. Maybe you do not catch every single word, but you know what they are talking about. Then suddenly they stop and look at you. They are waiting. It is your turn to speak. And that is when the problem begins. Your mind does not feel empty exactly. You understand what they said. You have a thought. You may even have an answer inside you. But the answer does not come out in time. The conversation moves faster than your mouth. The other person waits for a second, then maybe they continue talking, change the topic, or ask someone else. A few seconds later, you think, I knew what I wanted to say. Why didn't I reply? This is one of the most frustrating moments in English learning. You can understand native speakers, but you cannot answer naturally. You can follow the conversation, but you cannot enter it. You can listen, but you cannot join. This problem can make you feel shy. It can make you look quiet even when you have ideas. It can make people think you do not understand even though you do. Sometimes it can make you feel invisible in English conversations. A learner named Daniel had this problem at work. His coworkers spoke English all day. He understood many things: meetings, jokes, instructions, and simple conversations. But when someone asked him for his opinion, he often froze. One day, his coworker said, "Daniel, what do you think about this plan?" Daniel understood the question. He had an opinion. He wanted to say, "I think it is a good idea, but we need more time before we decide." Instead, he smiled and said, "Yes, maybe." Later, he felt disappointed. The problem was not that Daniel had no English. The problem was that his English listening was ahead of his English response speed. That is a very different problem. It means you are not starting from zero. You already have understanding. Now you need to train the bridge between listening and replying. That bridge is what we will build today. Many learners believe that if they understand English, they should automatically be able to reply in English. But real conversation does not work that way. Listening and replying are connected, but they are not the same skill. When you listen, your brain receives language. It recognizes sounds, words, phrases, tone, and meaning. You can use clues from the situation. You can understand from context. You can guess some missing details. Even if you miss a few words, you may still understand the message. Replying is different. When you reply, your brain must create language. It must choose an answer, organize ideas, select grammar, control pronunciation, and speak at the right moment. At the same time, you are watching the other person's face, checking whether they understand you and trying not to feel nervous. That is why replying can feel harder than listening. Daniel noticed this when he watched English videos. At home, he could understand a speaker very well. He could pause the video. He could listen again. He could read subtitles if needed. There was no pressure to answer. But real conversations did not pause for him. A native speaker might say something quickly, laugh, add one more comment, and then ask, "Right?" Daniel understood enough, but he needed more time to prepare a reply. By the time his answer was ready, the conversation had already moved on. This is the response gap. The response gap is the space between understanding and answering. Many English learners live inside this gap. They understand first, process second, prepare third, and speak last. Native speakers usually expect the reply much faster. This difference creates pressure. The goal is not to become perfect overnight. The goal is to make the gap smaller. You do that by training quick responses, common conversation patterns, and short answers. You also learn how native speakers connect words, how they signal a question, and how they expect turn-taking. When you understand this, you stop blaming yourself. You stop saying, "My English is terrible." Instead, you say, "My listening is growing, now I need to train my reply speed." That is a much healthier way to think. You are not failing, you are building the next skill. One reason native speakers are hard to answer is that they do not speak like textbooks. In textbooks, English is clean and separated. What are you going to do after work? But in real life, it may sound like, what are you gonna do after work? Or even faster, what you gonna do after work? Native speakers connect words, they reduce sounds, they use contractions, they speak in rhythm. They do not always pronounce every word clearly because their brain is speaking in chunks, not in separate pieces. This can make you understand the general idea but still feel slow when replying. Daniel had this problem in casual conversations. When his coworker said, "Did you get a chance to look at that email?" Daniel heard the sentence, but not as separate words. It sounded like one long stream. He understood that the coworker was asking about an email, but his brain needed a moment to decode the full question. That moment mattered. By the time he understood completely, he already felt late, so he stayed quiet or gave a very short answer. To fix this, Daniel stopped listening for every single word. He started listening for common sound groups. For example, did you get a chance to? Are you going to? Do you want to? Can you help me with? What do you think about? Let me know if. These groups appear often in everyday English conversation. When you recognize them quickly, your brain does not need to work so hard. You do not hear a long stream of sound. You hear a familiar pattern. This is a big step. If you want to understand native English speakers and reply faster, train your ear for phrases, not only individual words. Instead of only studying vocabulary, listen for how people actually say things. Going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. Did you may sound like didja. Let me may sound like lemmy. I have to may sound like I have to. You do not need to speak exactly like this right away, but you need to recognize it when you hear it. Recognition gives you speed. Speed gives you confidence. Confidence gives you more space to reply. Native speakers sound fast because their words travel together. Your job is to learn the rhythm of that movement. Some learners can answer English questions when they are alone. They can answer slowly. They can write answers. They can prepare sentences, but in real conversation, they miss the moment. Why? Because conversation is not only language. Conversation is timing. In many conversations, there is a short window where your reply belongs. If you wait too long, the other person may think you do not want to speak, or they may continue talking. This does not mean they are rude. It is just the rhythm of conversation. Daniel saw this clearly in group conversations. When three coworkers talked together, the topic moved quickly. One person said something, another person answered, someone laughed, and then the topic changed. Daniel understood much of it, but he needed 2 extra seconds to prepare his thoughts. Those 2 seconds were enough to lose his turn. At first, he thought he needed better grammar. Later, he realized he needed better entry phrases. Entry phrases help you enter a conversation quickly. For example, "I think so too." That makes sense. I see your point. I had the same question. Actually, I was thinking about that. Can I add something? These phrases are short, but they are powerful. They tell people, I want to speak now. You do not need to start with a full opinion. You can enter first, then explain. For example, can I add something? I think we should wait one more day before we decide. Or, I had the same question. I wasn't sure if the meeting was today or tomorrow. This helps because the first phrase buys your speaking turn, then you have space for your idea. Daniel practiced this. Instead of waiting until his full answer was perfect, he learned to step into the conversation with a small phrase. I think so too. Can I add something? That's interesting. I'm not sure, but these simple phrases changed his experience. He no longer waited silently for the perfect moment. He created a moment. Many English learners lose their chance because they wait too long. You do not need to interrupt rudely. You just need to enter naturally. A conversation is like a moving train. You cannot wait forever on the platform. You need a safe way to step in. When native speakers ask you questions, you do not have time to build every sentence from zero. You need reply frames. A reply frame is a simple sentence structure that you can use many times. It helps your brain start faster because part of the sentence is already ready. For example, I think it depends on. I'm not sure, but I think. The main problem is. The best option is. I agree with that because. I understand your point, but from my experience, these frames are not advanced, but they are useful. They give your answer a shape. Daniel began practicing reply frames because he was tired of starting from silence. He noticed that native speakers often use the same structures again and again. They did not create completely new sentence patterns every time. They used familiar frames and changed the details. If someone asked, "What do you think about the new schedule?" Daniel could say, "I think it depends on the team." If someone asked, "Should we call the customer today?" he could say, "I'm not sure, but I think we should wait until tomorrow." If someone asked, "Why is this taking so long?" he could say, "The main problem is the system update." These answers are clear because the structure is ready. Reply frames reduce pressure. They also help you sound more natural because real English conversation uses many repeated patterns. Here are useful frames for everyday conversation. I think, I feel like, in my opinion. For me, the reason is, what I noticed is. One thing I want to mention is, that reminds me of, this does not mean you should memorize long paragraphs. Long memorized answers often sound unnatural. Short frames are better because they are flexible. A frame is like a doorway. You step through it, then choose where to go. When you practice, choose 5 reply frames and use them every day with different questions. Over time, these frames become automatic. When a native speaker asks you something, your brain has a starting point. And sometimes a starting point is all you need to stop freezing. Native speakers do not always ask questions in a simple textbook way. They may not say, "What is your opinion?" They might say, "So what do you think? Does that work for you? Are you good with that? Any thoughts? Sounds okay? What's your take?" If you are waiting only for formal question language, you may miss the moment when they are asking for your reply. Daniel struggled with this. In meetings, people often said, "Any thoughts?" or "Does that make sense?" He understood the words, but he did not always realize that this was his chance to speak. By the time he understood the social meaning, someone else had already answered. This is a listening skill that many learners need. You must listen not only to the words, but to the function. What is the speaker doing? Are they asking for your opinion? Are they checking if you understand? Are they inviting you to agree? Are they asking for a decision? Are they expecting a short answer? When you understand the function, you can reply faster. For example, if someone says, "Does that work for you?" They are not asking about physical work. They are asking, "Is this okay for you?" You can reply, "Yes, that works for me." Or, "Actually, can we move it to tomorrow?" If someone says, "Any thoughts?" they are asking, "Do you have an opinion?" You can reply, "Yes, I think we need more time." Or, "Not yet, I need to check one thing first." If someone says, "Sounds good," they mean, "Do you agree?" You can say, "Yes, it sounds good." Or, "I'm okay with that, but I have one question." These small social phrases matter because native speakers use them all the time. If you only study long grammar explanations, you may miss these short conversation signals. But these signals are the doors into real conversation. Learn what they mean, practice simple replies, then you will not feel so lost when someone speaks naturally. A big reason learners struggle with native speakers is that they hear too many words at once. The sentence feels long. The sounds connect. The meaning arrives quickly. Your brain tries to process every word, but real speech is already moving forward. The solution is to listen in chunks. A chunk is a small group of words that carries meaning. For example, instead of hearing this sentence as 12 separate words, "I was wondering if you could help me with this later." You can hear it in chunks. "I was wondering if you could help me with this later." Now the sentence feels easier. Daniel practiced this with short audio clips. He would listen to one sentence and divide it into meaning chunks. At first, he used subtitles. Later, he tried without subtitles. He did not worry about every sound. He focused on the blocks of meaning. This helped him in real conversations. When someone said, "I was just checking to see if you finished the file," Daniel did not panic. He heard, "I was just checking to see if you finished the file." Now he knew the function. The person wanted an update. He could answer, "Not yet, I'm almost done." Or, "Yes, I finished it this morning." Chunk listening makes English feel slower because your brain is not chasing every tiny word. It is catching bigger pieces. You can practice with common chunks like, "I was wondering if," "Do you mind if," "Let me know when," "I'm not sure if," "I just wanted to," "Can you tell me," "Do you have time to?" These chunks appear in daily English, workplace English, phone calls, and real English conversation. When these patterns become familiar, native speakers feel less fast. You recognize the shape of the message sooner. Then you have more time to reply. The goal is not to understand every word perfectly. The goal is to catch meaning quickly enough to stay in the conversation. That is real listening progress. Many learners cannot reply because they try to say the full answer immediately. They want to include the reason, the background, the example, the correct grammar, and the perfect word choice. This makes the answer too heavy. The brain slows down and the conversation moves on. A better method is simple: answer with the main idea first, then add details. Daniel learned this after a meeting. His manager asked, "Can we send this today?" Daniel wanted to explain the whole situation. He wanted to talk about the missing file, the customer note, the manager's approval, and the time needed. The answer became too big in his head, so he said nothing for too long. Later, he practiced a simpler reply, "Not today, we still need approval." That was the main idea. Then he could add, "The file is ready, but I need your confirmation before I send it." This method is much easier. Main idea first, details second. For example, question, "How was the call?" Main idea, "It went well." Detail, "The customer agreed to wait until Friday." A question, "Do you agree with the plan?" Main idea, "Mostly yes." Detail, "I just think we need more time for the last step." Question, "Can you help me after lunch?" Main idea, "Yes, I can." Detail, "I'm free around 1:30. This method helps you sound clear and confident. It also helps the listener understand you quickly. Native speakers often reply this way too. They do not always begin with a long explanation. They give the answer, then explain if needed. If you wait until every detail is ready, you may lose your chance to speak. If you give the main idea first, you enter the conversation. Your reply does not need to be long to be useful. A clear, short answer can be stronger than a long answer that never comes out. Many learners imagine that native speakers are judging every mistake. This thought creates pressure. You may believe they are listening for grammar errors. You may think they are focused on your accent. You may feel that one mistake will make them lose respect for you. In most daily conversations, this is not true. People usually want the message. They want to know your answer, your opinion, your plan, or your problem. They are not sitting there with a red pen in their mind. Daniel slowly learned this. He was afraid to speak in meetings because he thought everyone would notice every mistake. But one day, he listened carefully to native speakers in the same meeting. They interrupted themselves, they changed sentences in the middle, they used fillers. They said, "I mean, kind of, you know, and let me start again." They were not perfect either, they were just comfortable. That changed Daniel's thinking. He realized that natural conversation is not clean like a grammar book. It is messy, flexible, and alive. People start sentences and change them. They pause, they repeat, they explain again, they use simple words, they ask questions. Once Daniel accepted this, he felt less pressure. He stopped trying to sound perfect and started trying to sound clear. That is the right goal. Clarity matters more than perfection. You can say, "I'm not sure I explained that clearly." Let me say it another way. "That's not exactly what I mean." "Sorry, I'll explain it more simply." These phrases do not make you look weak, they make you look communicative. They show that you are trying to be understood. When you stop chasing perfect English, your reply becomes faster. You do not waste so much mental energy judging yourself. You use that energy to communicate. Native speakers do not need your English to be perfect. They need your meaning to be clear. That is a much easier target. Shadowing is a powerful tool for understanding native speakers. You listen to a short sentence and repeat it almost immediately. This helps your mouth, ears, and brain learn the rhythm of English. It helps you notice stress, connected speech, intonation, and sentence flow. But for this problem, shadowing needs one more step. You should not only repeat, you should answer back. Daniel first used shadowing by copying audio. He repeated sentences from videos. His pronunciation improved. His listening improved. He felt more comfortable with English rhythm. But when someone asked him a question, he still struggled to reply. Then he changed the method. After repeating a sentence, he answered it. For example, the audio said, "What do you usually do after work?" Daniel repeated the sentence. Then he answered, "After work, I usually go home, eat dinner, and study English for a short time." The audio said, "Do you think this is a good idea?" Daniel repeated it. Then he answered, "Yes, I think it is a good idea, but we need more time." This method trained both sides of the conversation. First, he copied native rhythm. Then he created his own reply. This is much closer to real English conversation. You can do this with any short video, podcast, or dialogue. Choose a sentence. Repeat it, then answer it. Keep your answer short at first. 2 or 3 sentences are enough. This method is especially useful for English-speaking practice for beginners because it gives structure. You are not trying to create conversation from nothing. The audio gives you a prompt. You respond. Over time, your brain gets faster. You hear a question. You understand the pattern. You answer out loud. This is exactly the skill you need when speaking to native English speakers. Copy the rhythm, answer the meaning, repeat daily. That is how listening becomes speaking. To improve, you need a routine that trains real replies, not only listening. A good routine should be short, simple, and repeatable. If it is too difficult, you will stop. If it is too easy, it will not challenge your speaking skills enough. The best routine is one you can do almost every day. Daniel created a 20-minute routine. For the first 5 minutes, he listened to short native English clips. For the next 5 minutes, he repeated useful phrases. Then he paused after each question and answered out loud. At the end, he recorded one short answer and listened once. He did not try to correct everything. He only noticed one thing to improve the next day. This routine worked because it trained the exact problem: native speech. Quick understanding, short reply, clear speaking, self-correction. Here is a simple daily structure. Choose one short English clip. Listen for the main idea. Write down 3 useful chunks. Repeat those chunks out loud. Pause after a question. Answer with the main idea first. Add one detail. Record your answer. Listen once. Improve one sentence tomorrow. This is not complicated, but it is powerful. For example, if the clip includes the phrase, "Do you have time to?" you can practice several answers. "Yes, I have time after lunch." "Not right now, but I can help later." "I have 10 minutes, what do you need?" Now you are not only understanding English, you are preparing your reply system. This is the part many learners miss. They listen for hundreds of hours, but they rarely train the moment after listening. That moment is where replying lives. If you want to reply better, practice that moment every day. Listen, pause, answer, repeat. Over time, your brain learns that English questions are not emergencies. They become familiar signals. Your reply becomes more natural because you have practiced the rhythm before. Small daily reply practice can change your real conversations. There is a special kind of sadness that English learners feel when they understand a conversation but cannot join it. You are there, but not fully there. You listen, you smile, you understand, you have thoughts, but the conversation moves around you and your voice stays inside. It can feel lonely. But this stage is not the end of your English journey. It is a bridge. Understanding native speakers is already a big achievement. It means your ears are growing. Your brain is recognizing English. You are closer than you think. Now you need to train the next step, replying in real time. Daniel did not become confident in one day. He still missed turns. He still asked people to repeat. He still answered too slowly sometimes. But he changed his practice, and that changed his confidence. He listened for chunks. He learned common native speaker phrases. He used entry phrases to join conversations. He answered with the main idea first. He stopped waiting for perfect sentences. He used shadowing, then answered back. He built a daily reply routine. Little by little, he stopped feeling like an outsider. One afternoon, during a conversation at work, someone said, "Daniel, what's your take on this?" Before, that question would have made him freeze. This time, he took one breath and said, "I think the idea is good, but we should test it first. If it works, we can use it for the whole team." The answer was simple, but it was clear, and it came in time. That was the victory, not perfect English, not native-level speed, just a real reply in a real conversation. That is what you are building too. You do not need to answer every question perfectly. You do not need to understand every native speaker completely. You do not need to speak without pauses. You need to begin entering the conversation. One short reply at a time, one clear sentence at a time, one brave moment at a time. Your voice does not need to be perfect to be present. So the next time you understand a native English speaker but feel afraid to reply, remember this: you are not outside the conversation forever. You are training your way in. Listen for chunks. Start with the main idea. Use simple reply frames. Speak before the perfect sentence is ready. And step by step, your English will stop being only something you understand. It will become something you can use. If this lesson helped you today, please subscribe to Mona English Cafe and turn on the bell so you never miss your daily English dose. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like so I know you want more lessons like this, and leave a comment below telling me what English topic, real-life situation, or speaking struggle you want Mona to talk about next. Your idea could become the next video. Keep going, keep practicing, and remember, your English can grow step by step. See you in the next lesson.